All right, everyone, we're going to get started here. Thanks for joining in on the call. If I could have you all mute yourselves just for the time being, and then if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat box on the right of your screen to enter a message, and then I'll use that as a place to read off questions, and then feel free to take yourself off mute if you have follow-up questions and such. So once again, thanks for joining. Hope you all are doing well this morning. I just want to make a quick disclaimer on the training this morning. This training is not going to tell you how to download your data from Infinite Campus into a workable Excel form. What this training is for is if you've already put together a Excel sheet with your student ID, the state student ID, and then the data to be uploaded. And I'll show you how the best kind of format to have your Excel sheet in so that it's an easy data dump into Gears. So there is a two-step process. The first step is obviously taking whatever school-based database you have and making the data in there accessible and in an Excel form so that it's easy for you to transfer the data. So Carrie, you can't see me right now, but hopefully you'll be able to see me as I share my screen right now. I'm going to share it. And so if anyone has any difficulties seeing my screen, please say so now. It should be shared if everyone can see that. All right, so we're going to get going here. We're going to be working off of two, I need a microscope to read. Let's see if you can blow. Is it, Marissa, is that because I'm like a smaller, is everyone getting a full screen of my shared screen, or is it microscopic for everyone? Anyways, I don't know how to quite resolve that issue, but hopefully you can are all seeing my screen. And we're going to get going. So we're going to be working off of these two templates. The first is, I'll get that out of here. First is a Gears training course upload. So this is an Excel form I created to help with your download. And then this other one is similar too. And you'll see this one on the left here, this document, it has the courses listed as the tabs. And then on this right Excel form, we have grades listed as the tabs. Okay, so I'm going to bring this back up. We're going to get into Gears now. So if you're on Gears and you're about to log in, I would suggest you can log in now. What you will all see on your Gears site is the live site, which is I have pulled up here, and I'm going to expand that for everyone. And as you note here, this is kind of an important way that I'll help communicate with you. In the Gear Up announcements box to the right of the student and services columns, you will see it says Gears Winter Data Entry. And so you can click on those red links in that announcement to pull up guides on how to complete this data upload process and some other instructions on this process. So whatever I'm talking about now, we have made it available in text form. We will have another instructional document to put up there as well. All right. So we're going to get back into Gears here. I'm going to transition over to the training site, but you guys can stay in your site. They look almost identical. There's just no information here. So the first step that we want to do in completing our student data upload after we've gotten it into an Excel form. And I'm actually going to first show you how you can easily download Excel forms that can, with your student IDs pre-populated per student or per grade, and then use that as kind of your template to input your data from Infinite Campus or PowerSchool or whatever you're using so that it can be quickly put back into Gears. So if you want a easy way to create your own Excel document, you go into Reports. Under Reports, you drop down to the Student Data Status and Download. Once you open that, if you're following along here, once you open that, sorry for transitioning here, you'll see the report year can be selected from the top left, and your permissions only will allow you to download students from your school, so you don't have to worry about that. But say you wanted to build a format so that you could have an Excel sheet with your student IDs and every student that you have in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grades. Just for an example, we'll download something like this. You can also select first and last name and other identifiers that you might find important. So actually, the data that we're going to be putting in today or in the next coming weeks that we're going to be required to put in by February 28th, you can make a column for these in your downloaded file. So we're reporting on free and reduced lunch, LEPs, IEPs, and this is very important. So this part, if you want to write down these data points, these are the ones that we're going to be having to collect by the 28th. So free and reduced lunch, I've highlighted. The LEP is limited English proficiency. IEP is the independent education plan. We're tracking all three of those. Days absent from the first semester. So how many days was the student absent? And as you notice, you start making correlations. Days absent for students in 7th grade, that will be pulled students in 8th grade, and it'll be linked to their student ID and first name. So you'll see what the form is that's generated. So we also want to know pretty much all of their course-related fields as well. So we're not going to get into the test field or post-secondary, but we are going to be uploading their course information. One thing we won't be completing is until the end of school this summer is the course completion right here.
Hey. I was asking her.
Hey, Tina, can I have you mute your phone for me?
Sorry.
No worries. Thank you. And so we are going to be collecting introductory math and our math course enrollment. Are they enrolled in pre-algebra? Are they enrolled in algebra or geometry? Those are our identifiers. And then the difficulty level. So if we go back to one of our data points that I pulled, you'll see difficulty is listed as basic, general, or I should have put advanced here. So my apologies. So we'll jump back in here, and we'll create this download. Make sure you have selected what you want selected. So maybe we'll just make a column for each of our classes right there. Some of you won't have to worry about physics or biology, but most of us, we are inputting math courses, science courses, and English courses, as you can see from here. So, and then we also want the level of difficulty, so we'll select for those. And as you notice up here, math not taken, science not taken. Perhaps they weren't enrolled in one of those courses, a math, science, or English course for the year, or it's not listed, but I'll show you how to kind of get around the not listed so that we're at least tracking if they did and what the name of the course was. So I'm going to do a download of this. We don't need to fill out all of these. I'll maybe click difficulty for a few more. And then you hit download here. And so this will pull up. This will pull up a blank sheet for you. So I have some goofy names over here. I have all these students in this database are made up. But as you can see, it's already generated for me right from Gears, and you guys can do this in your own in your own Gears. But it's already generated all of the student IDs at my school. It has their first and last names, and what I actually could have done is add their grade, and I will actually to help identify that for you. So I'm going to exit out of this. I'm not going to save. I'm just going to go back in my data set and select for grade right here. So when I do that, I'm going to download it again, open that up. And as you can see, the grades are listed here, and I can easily sort the grades. So we have 9th through 10th, 11th, and so on. Or I can just leave it be, and I can use their student IDs as the way to identify them in my data. And as you can see, it's already given you what you need for your columns. Across the board, you have days absent here, and it's just up to you to then fill these columns out with appropriate matching student identifiers. As you can see here, it's a little wonky. It gave me a bunch of A's. You can just delete those out, make it so it's a clean number, and then it lists all of the various courses that they'll take. Now, this document just needs a little bit of tweaking in the columns section to make it viable for input into Gears, and I'll show you what that looks like now. So do we have any questions so far? Let me look into our question section. Any questions so far on kind of a way to produce an Excel form that you can use then to populate with your student data in order to put into Gears? Again, that's under Reports, Student Data, Status, and Download when you open that up. And you may want to do it one grade at a time. That might help and build your Excel file, and then you can make the 7th grade a tab. You can make 8th grade a tab, as I have in this document here. You can see I have grade 10. Maybe most of them are in pre-algebra, intro to science, intro to math, and then English, and grade 11. You can either sparse it out that way, or you can do it by courses. So we're going to go back into home here. So once you've kind of curated your Excel document and have your grades and the various courses that they're taking, you'll go into, well, first we'll go into Upload Selected Fields. So this page is a very useful page for uploading student data in a large batch format. So if you have a lot of students and you have their student IDs, and you can link them to their status at free and reduced lunch, LEP, and IEP, this is an easy way to do that. So we're going to start in the upper left with free and reduced lunch. So if you notice when that's highlighted, in the assigned column name, you'll see this, the column name for lunch, okay? So, and then if we click on LEP, it'll have a assigned column name of lowercase l, lowercase e, lowercase p. And then if I click to IEP, same thing. So what that's showing us is the column name, or it needs to be either for lunch, or we need to rename this box, the column that we haven't named in our database. So I'm going to pull up the database I'm using, for example. We'll be in grade 10. This is, and so we'll look, what do I have my column for free and reduced lunch named? Well, I have FRL. So I can either decide to copy and paste for lunch into my Excel form and call it for lunch, or I can copy from my Excel form into Gears what I want to call it. So I want to call it FRL, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to copy that and put it over here, so that when I put my column in here, the Gears will know to identify it as FRL instead of the for lunch. And then you'll notice here the column value, or the optional values that can be in that column, are only two. You can have yes or no. So it's so maybe in your data set, a yes, if a student is marked as having free and reduced lunch, they have an X by their, in that column. You could select to put, I want Gears to notice all of the X's in my database under that column to be a yes. The easiest way I found here, though, is to just match what they expect the value to be with your data set. So if they're saying that we can say yes or no, and that'll be recognized, that's what I put in my data set, and that's probably what most of you have, is for free and reduced lunch, is Chuck Roast, is he free and reduced lunch? Yes, so that will match, and all of these will match. So let's try it. All right, let's try to validate data and upload a bunch of students. So I'm going to select for a school. If you notice, I can select from any school, and all of the students in these schools are fake, but yours will be real, and you'll only be able to select from your school. So in my data set, I'm going to work from demo school 1, because I have demo school 2, because I have the most students in demo school 2. So I'm going to work from that. So once I pull up demo school 2, everything kind of looks the same, but now the system recognizes that it should be looking for student IDs that are linked to that school. So I'm going to pull up my data set. I can go ahead and hide all of the unwanted columns that I'm not going to be using. So the first 4, because as you can see in Gears, the student ID and the free and reduced lunch are the only 2 columns that are going to be matched here. So you can see with the tan outlining, that's 1 column, and this is your second column. So when we go back to our data set, you won't need these 4 columns for now. So you can just go ahead and hide those. If you scroll across the top, right-click, and go hide. Then you can copy and paste this information into Gears, and this is the fast way you're going to be able to do it, right? What I am going to do, though, unhide this and make sure I'm just selecting my demo school 2 participants. You won't have to do this because it'll all just be from the same school, but I will have to do this real quick. So I'm going to just sort it. I have these individuals. Ooh, a lot of demo school 2s. Okay. So I'm going to just delete this person. Okay, so I have my demo schools. I'm just going to highlight them so that I know who they are. And then I'm going to hide these. Okay. So I'm just going to go, and you might have to, I'm just going to go ahead and delete these 2. So you want to definitely copy your column heading. And when I do so, I'll move back. I've control copied this. I'm going to move back to my data set. And then you paste your information in this step 3 here. So I'll do that. There's my data. Here's my data for students in demo school 2, free and reduced lunch. And notice that I actually call it FRL. So And if I try to validate this now, my column heading student ID matches my column heading here. My FRL does not match my column heading here. So I'm going to try and validate it. And it says, I click validate, and up here it says column named for lunch, not found. So it didn't find my column name in the data. So what I can just do here, and it'll highlight that. So I'm going to go back in here and type in FRL so that it matches. So I'm going to validate data. So it didn't give me an error. It actually validated it. And you can see down here, I have my records. So if there are no reds, that means all of the records are have been validated. Your student IDs are correct, and the response is correct.
Get out of here.
Okay.
Just kidding. What's up?
Oh, a little commotion. Can we have whoever's talking mute themselves, please? I don't know who that is. All right. So let's say that I actually pulled from the wrong list of students. Maybe I had too many in my list. I'm not going to validate it. I'm just going to re-click. So we're here again, and I'll go validate. So it comes up with an error list of students. These students were not identified as having been in demo school 2, and so they cannot be validated. So if there's any student ID that you try to upload that is turning out red, it's either because the student is not in your school or is inactive, or, well, actually, if they're inactive, you can still do it. But if it will give you an error and you won't be able to upload on that list. So you might have to troubleshoot from there. But it does recognize my yes or no approach to FRL. All right. Any questions so far? Okay, I got a lot of questions here. Okay, so are we all kind of following along right now? Is there any questions up until this point? I have one from Marissa Krupa. Says, if students transferred into our school mid-year, how can we upload them into the system? So if they transfer to your school mid-year, you're obviously not going to have this information because it's just reporting on the first semester data. And so just upload them as a new student, and then you won't be able to pull this data necessarily for that student. Okay, so we're going to go back into the data set. And since presumably we completed our free and reduced lunch, so we're going to go into LEP. And so that'll populate here. So it's kind of just like a bouncing back and forth between your data set and GEARS, and using the student ID as the first column, and then whatever you're matching to that student ID as your second column. So we want to match LEP this time. Okay, so I'm done with the free and reduced lunch column. I'm going to hide that one. I'm going to copy who I know to be my demo school 2 participants and their LEP outcomes. I'll copy that, move over into my data set, right-click, paste, check my column headings, student ID match. This does not match because it is case sensitive. So what I can do, and this is the opposite way you could do it, you could just change it here, or you could change it up there. So I'm just going to change it here, for example. Validate, it does match. So I'm at LEP, and then all of my students are in IDs and outcomes are in white. So that that means I'm ready to go. So the fourth step, once this is all the errors have been, there are no errors, and you have your records list, you can go upload. And once you do that, it'll link all of this data that you have to that student. So although I'm only showing that I'm doing that for like 10 students right here, you could do it for your entire class, the entire 7th grade class. Or even if you have all that data in one place, you could do it for the entire all grades for their LEPs. So maybe every student at your school has free and reduced lunch. You could just use all of their student IDs and a column named FRL to upload all of those at once. Same with IEP. Okay, and then I'll just show you days absent real quick. So you're going to see days absent. The values that are acceptable are 0, 1, 2, whole numbers. So no half days, but it runs all the way through 199. So if the student has more than 200 days of absence, they're obviously not in school. So that's not going to be an issue. But we'll go into our data set here.
Yeah, let's just do 6. Okay, thanks.
Hey, Tina, could I have you mute again? Or I don't know if that's Tina or someone, but appreciate that. So sorry for bouncing around. I'm just bouncing between the Gears site, our meeting place, and the Excel form. So let's pull up our data set again. So I'm done with LEP, IEP, so I'm going to hide those, and I'm going to go to days absent and do the same thing I've done for the last 2. Okay, so then I'll go in here and paste. My days absent does match up. I made sure of that earlier. And I have whole numbers, and I'm going to validate, and there you go. So this is the days absent from the first semester, okay? And then once I do that, I'll just upload it. And so, like I said, again, this could be you could have an entire string of your 7th graders, and then you do your 8th graders. So this is a fast way to do batch uploads. It does still take time, as you know. Some of you have a couple of grades to report on. Most of you have upwards of 6 grades that you have to report on. So this is definitely going to be a friend for you. So I'm going to check for questions real quick on this section, and then we will move on to the course upload section. Any questions on this section here, which is the upload selected fields? For those of you, yeah, that's how you navigate to it. It's from the home screen. Upload selected fields is on the left column under students. Okay. So we got a few questions here. Nope, not me. Okay, just want to be sure I'm understanding. A copy and paste each column along with student ID. Correct. So in validating each column separately is kind of the only way it's just the easiest way to validate student ID with that one specific outcome, be it free and reduced lunch or LEP. We may work to expand it so that you can do like all of those columns at once, but currently it looks like in Gears that you can only do your student ID column and then one identifier column with that. When we go into this course upload courses section, you can do a little bit more of that uploading. So we're going to click on that. So from the home screen, I was under students, and then you go to upload courses. You can also find it under students. As you can see, the links here, the headers, match the headers up here. That took me a little bit to discover that the header students, the header services actually match up to a certain point. So like students here matches here, reports here matches reports here that you'll find. And then same with services, they're just a bit out of order. So I'm going to go into upload courses. And as you can see, I can upload, if each of these tan boxes is a column, I can upload five columns in this view. The last column being optional field of AP or IB. The mandatory fields or required fields are, for this upcoming data, which is, again, due on February 28th. Course difficulty, semester grade, the course they were enrolled in, and student ID. So this portion does take a little bit of time, as you know, because each student is enrolled in a math, science, and English course. So I'm going to pull up, but it works just the same as the previous upload feature that I showed you. So we'll go into our data set. If we've curated it correctly, we can just go in. So I have my grades listed here. I'm going to stick with grade 10 just because I know that these students are from Demo School 2, which I'll be using. And as you can see, from our original download that you would make, you'd have to make some changes to the column headings if you wanted it to match with the GEARS database. So what it does when you first download it from GEARS is it gives you your pre-algebra would be actually in your first column. And you want to just make sure that you're renaming that column courses, and that if all of the students in grade 10 are in pre-algebra, then that's a kind of an easy one. But maybe they are, and you can list as many courses across the top as you want. I just made it simple by selecting one math, one science, and one English. But say you had students that were listed as having algebra 1. I'll make 2 students have algebra 1. So you have most of your 10th graders are in pre-algebra, a couple of them are taking algebra 1. Here's their semester grades, and this is going to be kind of the tough part, is really extracting all those grades for each year's semester grades for those courses. And then the majority of them will have a general. General is the standard. Are they on target for, is that like the base level of the course? Are they in remedial or behind basic course, or are they in an honors or advanced course? So if we go back into here, you'll see that these are the courses that GEARS will notice if I've listed them under that name. In this box, you can rename, say at your school you call pre-algebra, or you say in Infinite Campus you download pre-algebra and it downloads as pre-alg. Oops. So if you download from Infinite Campus and pre-algebra is named something like pre-alg, or it's named whatever it's named, you can rename that pre-algebra as whatever it is named in your data set. So maybe it's alg1 is what it actually is called. So that is going to match what I have in my data set. So I actually have some that are called pre-alg, some that are called alg1, and then some that are called pre-algebra hyphen. So what the system is going to do is it's not going to register pre-algebra anymore because I told it to look for pre-alg. So I'm going to go back in my data set. Sorry for bouncing around so much. I'm going to hide my days absent because I'm done with that. And then I'm going to go in. I'm going to select for all of the columns that are required. Student ID, course, semester, and the level of difficulty of that course. I'm going to copy that, go into my data set, and paste it. Okay, so now we have our data set. And you notice that pre-algebra actually pushed semester grades out a little bit. That's okay. It still will read up and down. But once you paste into this, it's really difficult to edit the text so that it lines up. So that's kind of a big reminder here, is that once you've pasted this information, you can change individual numbers here, but it's really difficult to change subsequent columns because of the way that it formats. As you can see when I highlight it, it just highlights row to row, not up columns. Okay, so when I go to validate data, and I'll show some tips here. It says course difficulty not listed or not found. Okay, you're right. I just named it difficulty. So I'm just going to go up here and delete course. So that's what it's going to be named now. I'll go validate. Okay. So now it recognizes all of my column headings as being the same, but it's not recognizing some of my data, and we can look to see why. Well, first, my student IDs aren't linked because I didn't select a school. So we'll go back and do that in a second. So none of this is going to upload anyways because it's all error. It does recognize pre-algebra. It recognizes all of my courses that I've uploaded as pre-algebra, and then this one is Algebra 1. It's not recognizing my difficulty. So here, and this is kind of obnoxious, but here it says basic below grade. Because I don't have below grade here, it's not recognizing it. So I'm just going to call it basic without the parentheses. It's matching my general, and then this one it also doesn't match because it's honors and advanced. So I'm just going to call it honors. Oops. Instead of honors / advanced, and then I'll revalidate. And that's how you take away those errors. You kind of just read here, okay, it says general. Is that really going to match? Yes. And then vice versa. It says basic below grade. Is that matching here? It's not, so I got to change that. All right, so I'm almost ready to validate. The only problem is that I didn't select a school, and unfortunately, if you don't select a school before you do this, it'll erase all the data. So we'll have to redo that, but I'll just paste it back in here. I'll do what I did before. I'll rename my columns.
Oh, just one.
Honors. And then, yep, make sure that my algebras are correct. So pre-alg, I called it pre-alg. In algebra, I called it alg 1. And it's still recognizing the original pre-algebra as well, if you were to have named it that. Oop, course difficulty, I forgot about that. So validate. Oh, and it looks like I got all white, so I'm in the clear to upload this data. And so that's really nice because all of my students in demo school 2 or all my students in 8th grade or whatever grade are now having their math courses linked with their grade and their difficulty, which is exactly what you need to input for this coming deadline. And as you notice, there's 4 columns here, and I had 4 columns come out at the end here. I'll do one more example. I'm going to look for questions. No questions yet, but I'm just, okay, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to select for a different course. So let's go and erase all of this. Maybe I'll just reset it here with selecting a student. Okay, back in Demo School 2, back in our data set. So I'm done with pre-algebra as my course. So every time you have a new course, you want to name it course just to make yourself and your life easier. So I'm going to hide all of my information tied to pre-algebra or my math courses or whatever. I hide those. Again, so we're moving into Intro to Earth Science, which a lot of students take. I'm going to go across the top. I have my course, my semester grade, and difficulty. So remember that I was getting an error in my data and gears that it's actually called course difficulty in the assignment name, and I don't want to always redo that. So I'm just going to redo it in my data set. So I'm going to go here and name it course difficulty. So that, I don't know, here too. So that when I copy and paste this data, I can do it really efficiently. So I'm going to copy this, move over here, paste that, and then you'll see course, semester grade, yeah, Intro to Science pushed it out. But then we'll look in here. Is there anything named Intro Earth Science here. Oh yeah, okay, so Introductory Earth Physical Science. I am just going to have it, and this is easy too, you can just copy and paste it from here. I need it to be named Intro Earth Science, so I'm going to copy it here and just paste it into here. So now GEARS will read this outcome, and this is how we track it in GEARS. So whatever you call it is what we'll pull it as a calculus class, for example. So we'll go to validate data. Oh, student ID not found. Aha, see, so this is great. I didn't even select for my student ID. So let's go back into my data set. I'll delete this. I forgot to select this column, so I'm going to redo that. Make sure that there's no space. So if I paste it here, there's a space now. I need to get rid of that space. Okay, so I'm going to validate. And it looks like, again, those identifiers I had, basic honors, they don't match up here because it's named something, but you get the reason why now. And so you can upload all of these and then correct these later. Or you can correct them now in your original data set and repaste. Whatever it is you want to do, but then you can upload it from here so that all of my introductory Earth Science classes and the students who took them are now linked with their grade and the difficulty. Any questions about this student upload page, or course upload page? Okay, nothing? Sounds good. Awesome. And then in the future, you can see actually up at the top left where these, where you can open when these open up. So you actually, this opened on the 7th of January this year. And then your course completions, which aren't due until the beginning of June, mid-June, don't open until the May 1st. So you can't really even complete that. So we'll go back to home, top left. So we just got out of upload courses. So I'm just going to go in and out for you for a second so you know where it is for sure. Upload courses is under links right here. And it'll pull up this screen where you'll do all your courses, your course enrollments, your semester grades, and your course difficulties. Back at home, under upload selected fields, you'll do your free and reduced lunch, LEP, IEP, and days of absence. Okay. If you have homeless and foster care information, we'd like you to upload that as well. We know it's a tough kind of information to gather, so we're not going to hold you accountable, but it does help understand student outcomes a little bit better. Okay. So now we're done with those two main sections on how to upload batch uploads of student coursework and student demographics, if you will. So I'm going to check for any more questions. And then it looks like we're good. So now I'm going to show you how to do a shortcut version of this if you're checking for students who might be missing data, or say you do batch uploads and you wanted to check to see if that data came through. Okay, so I'll show you how you can check that and even alter data very quickly through a drop-down menu. So if you're following with me here, under reports at the top, right underneath where we did our initial Excel download of our files is the student data entry shortcut. This is a very powerful website or link that you can use to check for missing data, or to even change or upload data on a student-by-student basis. So in order, and as on my screen, I can select for any school, but you'll just be able to select for yours. So we're going to go into Demo School 2 again. And there's no students in 7th grade, obviously. Or actually, let me check for annual data. Okay, so under annual data, you'll find your free and reduced lunch, your IEP, your LEP, and your days of absence. So if you look here, this document in orange and yellow, and maybe some of you have seen this because I usually use this to communicate missing data with you. You can check for what's missing. So Chelsea Backus, Barbed Wire are missing, and all of these students are in fact missing their data on days absence, their LEP, IEP, for and reduced lunch. Now I'm going to show how the data connects when you do a batch upload to this website. Okay, so I'm going to actually revalidate some data on days absent and actually upload it this time. So back in upload selected fields, which is on the left-hand side, I'll go to days absent. I'll open my data set. I'll unhide my columns so that I can get back to days absent, which is here. Rehide those other ones. Copy and paste for my days absent and student ID, like I did before. Validate. Oh, I forgot again to select my school. Repaste. And upload, finally. I didn't click this last time, but I will this time. All right. So then I can go down here. It looks like, and this is how you review if it was uploaded. I had 12 students from grade 10 with days absent listed. So we're good to go here. I'm going to go back to my reports, under reports, student data entry shortcut. Select for my 10th graders who I just uploaded from my demo school 2. Go into annual data, that's where my excused absences are, and select for demo school 2. Oh, and there you go. Looks like all of my days absence are now filled in, except for Chuck Roast. So maybe I know that off the top of my head, and I can just put it in. I can click on this yellow box and put it in myself. Or I can go back into my data set and try to figure out why this student ID was not in my data set. Another way you can quickly zoom through some of these is if you have the data set in front of you on a piece of paper or something, you can click through the yeses and nos for LEP, IEP, and so forth. And when you do so, and I'll just do a couple examples. So if everyone's at your school is in free and reduced lunch, I'm just going to click through and say yes. And sometimes this is what I end up doing for you guys because it's a simple way to help out. But if you know how to do this, it's an easy way to get your data back in. So once you see that, oh, I've selected yes for all these, I'm going to go to update missing data, which is right here. Click that. It'll reload it, and now it's locked in. They're free and reduced lunch. Once you click valid update missing data in this form, you cannot undo it unless you go into each individual student's data set. Okay? So just keep that in mind. I'm going to check for questions here. No questions? Okay, I'm going to check for course completion in my student data entry shortcut. So under the select report right here, you will drop down menu and you can look and see your courses are math, science, English, and advanced math and that's just a way to break them up, but essentially it's just math. And so I'm going to be doing course uploads for, let's say, science. Okay. So now it pulled up all of my students who are in grade 10 at my school, and this is the data that's missing currently. Now, again, I'm going to show you how it connects from the data set when I do a batch upload to this site. So I'm going to go back in my data set, select for intro to Earth Science, go back to upload courses now. And in upload courses, remember, I'm going to select for my school, and I already had done this, so I'm going to paste in here. I'm going to get more than that data. Excuse me. Back in my data set. Copy, paste. Oops, I didn't copy it. There we go. Looks like my headers match, but my grade, this probably does not. So let's call it what it is in our data set. Validate. Oh yeah, and basics. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm just going to upload the ones I have. Okay, so I'm going to go back into reports, student data entry shortcut, select in the select report for math or for science, because that's what I just uploaded for 10th grade at my school. And look, our numbers dropped. There used to be a lot more students here with incomplete data, but since I uploaded their science course, you only need to upload one course per subject per student. So if they're in chem and earth science, I would just put in chemistry or whatever highest one they're using. So I can also change it in here. So what was Chelsea Bax's earth science grade? Maybe I know that offhand. She got an A, and it was a general course. I can just validate that from here, and then she goes away. You know, it's pretty simple. So whatever version you want to use, if you want to use this site, the data entry shortcut site, to upload student data, it is a little bit more tedious as you have to click through all of these drop-down menus. Or you can use our batch upload here. And as you notice, we have batch uploads for add students and student demographics. So for in 2020, fall 2020 or the beginning of next school year, you can also use those similar to the upload selected fields and upload courses to quickly upload all of your new 7th graders and their demographics. One last thing I'll point out before I close, and we're just about at time, in the student data entry shortcut, which is under the reports on the top, you can check for missing data, like I said, and you can also, we have a lot of students here, you can check for their annual data. So maybe in their annual data, I goofed up and I put them on an LEP, but I put them as LEP, but they're not. I can edit that by clicking on their student ID here in the left side, opening that up, and now it takes me to their individual student page. And I can go into their current year student data, or I can go into previous years and update information as needed. But I'll go into their current year student data here. And this is everything that I've uploaded on them so far this year. And as you notice, identified as a limited English proficiency, LEP. I goofed that up, so I'm just going to change it here. Say no. And then you can go submit. And then it says student updated. So I made that alteration in the individual student data. That's really the only way I know how to alter that data. But as you can see, each student does have a lot of information corresponding with them, right? These are the assessments and other advanced placements and coursework. As you can see, our introductory math was listed, the one that I just did in the data entry shortcut. I gave her an A in general. So that's how you jump into the student individual sites. I'm going to go to home here, open up my meeting. All right, we're at 11, so I just wanted to thank you all for coming. If you have any questions about what I just showed or the Excel forms, I'm happy to help. Please give me a call whenever you get a chance. If you have any more lingering questions, feel free to send them in the message box, and those get downloaded so I can follow up. And yeah, good luck, everyone. I once did a lot of student data entry and attendance records for my after-school programs that I did before this job, and it was quite tedious, and working in Excel is always a challenge, right? But hopefully this has given you some tools to do it quickly. I will be researching and working with Deanna to hopefully build a training on how to pull, the best way to pull ad hoc data dumps from Infinite Campus so that you can transition them easily into Excel forms for GEARS. But once again, don't forget that GEARS can also generate Excel templates for you with all of your student IDs, since all of that information is in GEARS already when you uploaded students. All right, thank you, everyone. Take care, and send me your questions or give me a call if you have any.